And the winner is Starlight and Shadows by Vera Winters. I think I have a secondhand copy of this coming in the mail. Between the holidays and the very weird scattered notifications of Pengo books, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to give it a couple days before I try to source another one. What I will be looking for in this reading vlog. One, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a knockoff of Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, just kind of looking at the cover and having an overview of the story, so I intend to read that pretty close by and to try to compare how much of the story was ripped off. And I tell you what, for AI enthusiasts being so gung-ho about people being able to bring their own original stories now without the problem of craft, a lot of AI stories are just rip-offs. There's at least one writer out there who just collects the stories and folklore of other cultures, retells them with AI, and then polishes them. This is the next level of colonialism. I will be on the lookout for storytelling, craft, plotting issues, developmental problems, funky line writing. I'm not a reviewer, I'm an independent author, so normally I wouldn't criticize those things in the work of a peer, but I don't know if I consider an AI writer my peer. I only respect those who put in genuine effort. I asked my husband what he looks for in AI. He's a scientific editor, and a lot of people who utilize his services are people who speak English as a second language, so a lot of them have been using AI more in their work. He said his big tells are writing that feels severely out of place. He read a passage once about cells being little explorers in the body that have this mechanism in them that's like a little compass, and no scientist really writes like that. AI-generated graphs and graphics are usually a sign for him that they likely used AI also to write the paper, so for our purposes that will be AI use in the cover art or any interior illustrations. And two was strange, inconsistent grammar structures and punctuation. And yes, he did mention an M-dash, which briefly brought us about probably the closest we've ever come to one of us sleeping on the couch in 13 and a half years of marriage. But he didn't mean that using an M-dash in and of itself is a sign that something is definitely AI written. We have to remember that in human writing, an M-dash usually has two roles, right? It's used for parentheticals, sort of in aside in the middle of the sentence. It's used to connect two clauses into a compound sentence. So if you consider the two simple sentences, I opened the door, it was cold outside, that's very stilted writing. So a good writer is likely to try to mix that up so they don't have repetitive sentences. You can make one of them a dependent clause. That would be like, as I opened the door, I realized it was cold outside. You can use a comma and a conjunction. I went to open the door, but realized it was too cold to go outside. You can join them with a semicolon. This is a little bit more formal. You see it a little less in fiction, but it is possible to just say, I opened the door, it was too cold outside. Or you can use an M-dash. I opened the door, ooh, it was so cold outside. And while all these methods accomplish the same thing, they have different connotations to them. A good human editor will keep in mind the voice of the character, the tone of the scene, a whole bunch of things to help you decide which of those methods you want to use in a particular place. But AI is a pattern repeating machine. It's going to choose what it sees the most of, and right now that's M-dashes. So it's not just about the particular punctuation you're using that would indicate whether something is AI. It's the repetitive use of punctuation or structure in places that it doesn't belong or doesn't fit the tone. I'll be back with this when I have the book and we're ready to dive in. I hope you all don't mind that I'm not glammed up today. After this week, I didn't really feel like putting makeup or doing anything other than reading a little bit of Slop, so let's embark on this together. And I hope all of you are taking care of yourselves as well. My reading buddy, Pendleton, is currently mad at me because it's an hour till his next meal, and that is all my fault. To get started, let's take a look at the artwork, both on the cover and anything inside the book, to see if we can see any traces of AI generation. When I first saw this cover in the grainy Goodreads profile picture, I actually wasn't immediately sure that there was any AI usage involved. Kind of had a discussion in one of my comment sections about it. But now that I'm here and I'm looking at it in person, there are quite a few things that are really throwing me off. First of all, these bars on the windows, none of them are straight all together with each other. This one especially is coming in at a very weird bend. These gems that they're both wearing, none of them are faceted like an actual gem would be. These jewels that she's wearing on the lacing of her corset, I don't really know what those are. You know, sometimes you see pins on the front or at the center of the belt or at the center of the neckline, but to have them be inside the lacing of the corset like this is very strange. Speaking of corsets, this upward angle over here is very unusual. You don't really see many historical or like modern fantasy corsets with that upward angle. It's not impossible, but it's very rare. It's also got some weird bumps in the line here where the boning intersects with the divot in her hip. This earring, I can't actually tell what that is. Very weird design. Doesn't really resolve into anything recognizable. Same thing with the pattern on her shoulder here. Very AI looking pattern when you zoom into it. And her bracelets as well don't resolve into logical, like clearly defined pieces of jewelry. The really big tell for me though was her hair. These individual pieces, the way that they actually taper on one side or on both sides in some cases. You have these very odd strays. A lot of artists incorporate strays, but these look more like split ends than anything else. In my opinion, the worst one is back here, this little piece. This is toward the bottom of her hair, so this should be very tiny, but this is actually very wide. It's got this weird bump on it, and it comes out at a very strange angle. It doesn't really fall down with the rest of her hair. So my best guess, and it is a guess, it's all speculation, is that this was either AI generated and touched up or drawn and AI assisted. But in my opinion, that does meet the first criteria that I was looking for. Paging in the middle, I don't really see any artwork besides these little designs here, just a little tiny vector graphic, or the stylized text at the start of each chapter. Anyway, you know the deal. Husband's game night, background noise. I'm a little quiet. First thing I notice is not the use of overly correct punctuation. It's actually there's a lot of mistakes here that make it read almost like a rough draft. Take a look. Past tense, past tense, past tense, present tense. Ending a sentence with City of Luminara, and then starting the next one with City State of Luminara. On this page, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs starting the same way with page 2, and we're spending a paragraph talking about her bag. Again, not necessarily an out and out mistake, but if a human was reading this back, they would say it's kind of boring because it is. Why are we talking this much, saying the same things about her bag when we're literally in this new city meeting new people? Not all of these are mistakes. Some of these are just like not best practices, but a good editor would catch these. And a lot of times, if you do an actual dedicated editing pass, you catch enough of these that not all clustered together in the beginning of your book like this. Something I hadn't thought of was tone, and I can tell you the tone of this is very off. You know how ChatGPT or any AI really is like really ass kissy? Like it's always really positive and really sweet, and it just wants to serve you the most brilliant, adorable human ever. So I'm on page 6 of this book, and literally nothing bad has happened yet. We're following this elf, Illyra, and she's coming into this new city where she can often go. Everything is wonderful and amazing. The harbor's full of magnificent ships, and it's got this bustling, adorable market. I mean, it's just magical and beautiful to the max. And really, the only bad thing that happens is that in this market, right, she's admiring this stall of lanterns. She's looking at these lanterns. She realizes she can't afford it, even though she really wants one of these beautiful lanterns. But then there's some acrobats in the town square. And one of their juggling balls flies toward the lanterns. She casts a spell and catches the ball before it crashes into the lantern stall. Her guide, the guy she's with, is like, "Well done, wonderful. Check out this woman." And then everyone is impressed with her and loves her, and everybody claps, right? And then the woman who's running the lantern stall offers her a lantern. But even then, right, she gets what she wants. There's nothing wrong in her day. She's having the best of her day and making the best of her friend. A page ago, these lanterns were a huge deal. They were a piece of home. She really wanted one. She couldn't afford it. Then she saves the stall, right? And the elderly orc comes out and says, "Oh, my goodness, you're the best. Thank you for being amazing. Please, grab a lantern. Take any of them. My whole stock is yours, and I am beholden to you forever." And then the lanterns never come up again. And they don't on the other page either. What happened? Did she take one? Did she not take one? I'm still in the first 10 pages. Where are you setting up? Even if this were a cozy fantasy, I would expect some kind of hint of her loneliness, her desire for love, or the reason that she wants to open a new business. None of that is into that. It's just that most gorgeous, most fun, most sparkly day ever that really gives uncanny valley. You gonna read with me? What do you think? But she had chosen a new path, and it was so tantalizingly close that she could almost taste it as vividly as the scent of spun sugar from a nearby stall. Don't you hate it when you choose a path and take a large bite out of it and you can taste the scent of it? And it tastes like the scent of spun sugar, which pretty famously has almost no taste. She only hoped it, too, wouldn't dissolve to nothingness in her mouth. Oh, yes, this large bite of path that is scented like spun sugar just dissolved right to nothing. That doesn't mean anything. Yes, I am a human. I have done human things like 80. Argana pointed out more landmarks. Lush dense greenery of the groves filtered the artisan district from one side. Lush dense greenery of the groves spilled onto the artisan district from one side, and to the other, the impossible towers of the main university loomed, their structures in intricate lacework of pale stone. That means nothing at all. Nothing at all. Let's look at the structure here. Greenery spilled onto the district from one side and to the other, presumably other side of what? The impossible towers of the main university loomed. Okay. Their structures in intricate lacework of pale stone. How do towers resemble lacework? That is literally impossible for me to visualize. Finally, on page 7, we get the merest hint of everything not being perfect, right? Lyra listened, but she couldn't ignore the uneasy thought creeping in. Did she really have the right to come here and alter the natural flow of magic with her obscure traditions? She's opening a shop. How does that alter the flow of magic to open a shop? That's one of the most innocuous things you can do, unless you're like just selling Timu or something. Oh my god, she's opening an MLM. Multi-level magic scheme. Page 8, she lifts her arm free from his, despite the fact that they have not taken arms at any point during this book. Actually, it's even worse than that. Without waiting for a response, her arm slipped free from his, and she turned down a narrow side street that branched away from the main thoroughfare, letting the gentle tug lead her along. She's following this instinct that she has in her head. Arkanev paused, surprise registering on his face. Of course, although I don't usually bring clients this way, he admitted. She broke away from him, let go of his arm, and ran off down a side street, and can still see the surprise on his face and hear him say this. I can't. I'm on page 8. This is going to take forever. Side street with only a short cul-de-sac. Okay, fine. Weird, because cul-de-sacs usually have houses on them, right? But fine, you want to say that it's short in length, okay? The side street was only a short cul-de-sac, barely more than an alley in length. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. You've changed what it is 3 times, right? It was a side street, and then it was a cul-de-sac, and then it was an alley. How long are alleys? Cul-de-sacs usually have a length to them, right? It's weird to have them in a fantasy book, but I'm willing to give you that. But how long is an alley? You could say barely more than an alley. Wide. Oh, good. We also have unkempt trees, gnarled with unknown ailments looming over the pathway, and concealing empty-looking buildings on either side. Where are you that you have trees in your alleyway? What? Maybe you have trees in a cul-de-sac, but you don't really have them on side streets or down alleyways. Empty-looking buildings is probably not a cul-de-sac. What is this location? It's nothing. Shuttered windows darkened with age and neglect. How can you see that the windows are darkened if they're shuttered? Seemed to gape like rheumy eyes hinting at memories long forgotten. The windows are dark and gaping, but they're shuttered close. But they also resemble rheumy eyes. Now, rheum, R-H-E-U-M, is those little eye crusties that you get. How is the window like a rheumy eye? And for the love of God, are these windows opened or closed? Because they've changed like several times now. They were shuttered, then they were darkened with age and neglect, then they were gaping, then they were like rheumy eyes, which, in the morning your eyes don't open very wide. Rusted padlock, rusted. Thing is, you don't need this phrase. So if you wanted it to actually read like a human wrote it, they just gotten rid of that prepositional phrase. And she knew the name of the mansion without anyone telling her, which is fine, right? Magic, we're trying to develop the suspense, but no one commented on that. No one thought it was weird that Starlight Sanctum just came to her, just beamed right into her noggin. Illyria glanced at Arkanev, her new buddy. Reading the concern in his eyes, she knew he only wished to keep her from harm. Ma'am, he just met you this morning. He just met you like 10 minutes ago. I don't really think he cares if you live or die, unless you're talking about him making the commission off this real estate sale. I'm pretty sure my real estate agent wouldn't care about me that much. I have 4 or 5 videos worth of content. That was chapter 1. I am almost out of battery, and so is my phone. We'll keep this going another time. My special dedicated bookmark for just such an occasion. First thoughts. I know I laughed a lot about this book yesterday, but the more it sat in my brain, the more that it bothered me. And the big thing is the tone issues. Normally in a story, you have the hook, right? The first page that draws you in, and then you start going into the setup of the story. Now, it's really important when you're doing that you are starting to build up your themes. Let's look at this done right by humans. I have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang here, right? Hooks you right in. But then it doesn't pick up the story, right? It goes back and it tells you miscellaneous snippets. So in Yellowface, June is detailing all of the successes that Athena has had after college. Like, Athena just shot at the top, and June kept querying and getting rejected. And an AI would look at this and go, okay, stuff happens. An AI might even be smart enough to say that publishing stuff happened because both of these women are authors. What is missing is the emotional setup of the theme. Yellowface is about June's jealousy and racism toward her frenemy. And those little snippets start to tell us that story. The other thing they do is introduce us to problems. Hi, buddy. Are you a fan of R.F. Kuang? Oh yeah, he's here for R.F. Kuang. He's a bigger fan of Catabasis. So we start to get introduced to problems. The problem of Athena's death, we want to know not only how did we get here, but what's going to happen now. And we have all the problems that June's been encountering in her publishing journey. It would be such a weird and depressing book if, in the first chapter, June gave Athena the Heimlich, and so she didn't die, and in gratitude, like, Athena introduced her to her agent, and June's manuscript was accepted for publication. That would be so bland. Starlight and Shadows actually had that opportunity because there is this moment when everyone turns and stares at her because she just used this magic. Presumably this magic is sort of unusual in this new location. But instead of them reacting with fear and distrust, they would set up this sort of outsider dynamic leading up to a theme of xenophobia. They all just love her right away. They're so impressed. And everybody claps. The main character, whose name I've already forgotten, but the elf who came to town, has a problem of wanting to open a shop and find a location for it, right? And she instantly, by the end of the chapter, finds one. She also made this new friend who instantly loves her. They're instant besties. So their relationship has nowhere to go. There's nothing to build toward. They're instantly BFFs. And everything is fine and dandy and sunny forever. A lot of the reviews that I read about this, because I was very curious, I looked them up, described this book as soulless. I think that's what will be creating that dynamic, ultimately. Humans don't want to read stories written by machines, because a machine, especially one programmed the way that LLMs are, write happy, perky stories where no one has any problems. Humans don't respond to those. The oldest story that I can think of off the top of my head is Gilgamesh. Now, Gilgamesh is not a super compelling character to us, the modern audience. He doesn't go through much of an arc, right? But he still has problems. He's literally fighting monsters in the streets. His friend, his boyfriend, Enkidu as well. Not a lot of dynamic change, but definitely problems to solve. And a machine that's built to give you positive vibes and treat you like the center of the universe is not going to write problems for you. Say it with me, it's not the M dashes, it's how you use them. Minor gripe. In chapter 2, we meet the pirate captain. She pays her crew for the work, right? Before she sells her wares. So she gives them money to pay her crew. I accidentally jostled the couch, and now he's giving me this death glare. I'm sorry. Okay, so she just encountered this rough and tough band of criminals at the tavern, right? They're drinking ice wine. Jasmine-infused ice wine. I believe, now I'm not a drinker, but I believe that ice wine is a very expensive, very delicate wine. It's like usually served with desserts. I'm pretty dang sure you don't find ice wine in clanking tankards. Not what I would have served at an inn to a band of rogues. Rainrivers was an ox of a human man, his face like a raw turnip. I understand the first metaphor. What does his face like a raw turnip mean? Oh, that's right, nothing. Yeah, you heard it too. Your coffers may run deep these days, but I remember the scrubs behind the legend. Scrubs? Okay, I guess she emerged straight from 1999. Don't worry, AI will always helpfully be here to explain the joke to you. So meanwhile, our girl Illyria goes to the library to look up information on this mansion that she wants to buy. So she finds this book, right, that has sketches of the mansion, like architectural sketches. With macabre additions and renovations charted in various building permits that have been approved by Luminar's council. Now that's a huge run-on sentence. There's like 5 prepositional phrases in there we didn't need. But my question is, as someone with a special interest in urban design and architecture, how does a blueprint get macabre? What do you add on to a grand mansion to make it spooky? Do you have to get permission from the city to install a gargoyle? Unfortunately, I'm not curious enough to ask ChatGPT, who I think would be the only one who has that information. Unless you know? Nah, he's not talking. The real estate agent friend called it a prime piece of real estate, although remember that this is down a dark side street / alley / cul-de-sac full of roomy windows, okay? And it tells you something about the state of the Luminara housing market. Well, it sounds like she's going to go through the black market to get ownership of this house, so, hashtag relatable. Love to see a good internal character debate, right? Debate trying to decide what the right way forward is, except literally 1 page ago. She had just said she would see her dream realized no matter the obstacles ahead. The Starlight Sanctum would shine as a beacon of hope in Luminara. Nothing has happened in the 4 or 5 paragraphs in between that would make her rethink that. She just literally made a decision and is, without reason, questioning it again on the next page. By the way, next time we're back with the pirate captain lady, she's turning up her nose at a rosewater cocktail because it's too dainty. See, I'm pretty sure if you have to call it banter, then it's not banter. And if you have to say that it comes easily, it's not in fact coming easily. What do you think? Yeah, you know that people love you? They do. Sorry to steal your spotlight, but we're gonna read some Slop, okay? We have completely skipped over an entire plot point. They spent half a chapter building up if Illyria could even get her hands on this mansion that she wants to buy, and oh, that she's gonna have to go through the black market, and oh, it's so tense. And then the next time we're with her, she has the mansion, and she was bidding on this crystal that the pirate captain was also bidding on at an auction to remove the curse from the building. All of that build-up is just gone, resolved, off page. And she's got investors, and she's got the Luminaran Senate on board. When did all this happen? They're really hammering home on this concept of the mansion, the sanctum, as a sanctuary for magic and alchemy. We don't know why magic and alchemy are having a hard time in the world. I mean, she's across the street from a university where they teach magic. She performed magic in the streets, and everyone was like, oh my god, you're the greatest, you're amazing. Why do they need a sanctuary for it? I haven't run into as many of the awkward, alley cul-de-sac side street problems, but a lot of this is really overwritten. The heavy wooden double doors resisted only for a moment before surrendering to her palms, weary groans and a faint splintering noise. That's just a lot of concepts in there, and I do wonder, are they really heavy double doors if they surrender to her palms and make a faint splintering noise? I think they've got worms. Not you, buddy. Don't get any ideas. The word repetition is really starting to grate on me. With the right renovations and some clever magic worked into the design, this place could become the sanctuary of magical knowledge she envisioned. A place where all were welcome to share in discovery. Magic, magic, place. Oh my god. I get that this scene is supposed to be uneasy, like something weird is going on in the building. But listen to this. It's probably just critters who've made this place their home, Illyria said out loud. Wouldn't be the first time I've dealt with a rodent infestation. She forced a laugh, trying to dispel the tension. Illyria nodded. Yes, exactly. Perfectly normal sources for odd noises and smells in an abandoned building. I am guessing one of those was supposed to be one of the, architects or craftsmen that she's with, but the fact that ends up all being her is so awkward. It's probably just critters who made this place our home. Wouldn't be the first time I've dealt with a rodent infestation. Yes, exactly. Perfectly normal sources for odd noises and smells. And I am a perfectly normal human that does perfectly normal human things. We finally get the first hint of what happened in her old home, Lyceum, that sent her here. She had compromised her principles once, bowing to the Lyceum strictures, coveting magic like a rare gem that only the Saphirae, the elves, or those laden with coin could afford. But no more. From here on, she would walk the path of integrity. Oh yeah, she's giving up her pursuit of coin and opening a shop. Yeah, usually once you get fed up with the greedy ways of the world, you then go participate in even more capitalism, and that'll make you feel better. A lot of this is just over-explained and repetitive, right? Illyria considered their options. I'm going to check the upper floors. I want to see if there are any of the old living quarters that could work for my studio, which I think they just found her studio a page ago. Illyria let her companions drift apart to continue studying the main floor as she made her way up the ornate staircase, its marble steps worn smooth by centuries of feet. This paragraph here and the first sentence of this one, which is quite long, are all her going upstairs. We don't need to know that her companions drifted apart, she goes upstairs. But his eyes are crusted with rheum and gape like shuttered windows. The architecture made no sense. In rooms where she'd expected windows, she was confronted with flat walls. Okay, that's kind of fishy. Rooms that should have been spacious had been partitioned into cell-like chambers. You've never seen a room that's been subdivided before? She trailed her fingers over peeling wallpaper and rotting woodwork that looked like it had weathered a flood, yet she knew the floor immediately below it was dry as bone. Okay, so the water is running through the walls. That's actually fairly common when you have a leak. The only way you would expect the floor to show water damage too is if it was on the ground floor, which this is not. She goes upstairs. It's spooky, right? She finds an alcove with cursed objects in it, and she touches them, and she has this vision of past curses and bloodstained altars and screams of agony. And she does pause to think, oh, what had happened? But then in the next paragraph, it says she had come here to claim this place and establish her shop, her vision of unity. The things she had witnessed only strengthened her resolve. What? Why? Why on earth is she sticking around? How did seeing a curse in the property she just bought, by the way, strengthening her resolve to open this shop? What? So we're still with Illyria in the mansion, right? And the leader of the organized crime comes in and threatens Illyria. She kicks out the leader of the organized crime, right? And then remembers her threat echoing in her mind, and those baleful red eyes. That's how you can spot a mob boss, their baleful eyes. Her determination is getting so annoying. There's no arc for her. No matter what bad happens, she kind of worries about it for a moment, but then her determination grips her again, and by golly, by gum, she's gonna open this place. So what's been happening is this elven woman is trying to open this shop in a mansion. The mansion is cursed, so she needed this crystal. The pirate captain is also cursed. We don't know what the curse is. It hasn't said yet. I think it's trying to build up suspense that way. But they both went to this auction where they met and they kind of flirted until they realized they were both bidding on the same curse-removing crystal. The elf lady won, and then she got shaken up by the local mob, basically. She is having a hard time now getting imports because she's on the mob's list of people not to work with. So she just met up again with the pirate captain. She was arguing with a mob person on the docks. The pirate captain overhears and decides to step in and offer to help her. Now that makes it sound a little bit more well organized than it actually is. When the pirate captain, Briar, sees Illyria arguing with the mob on the dock, she does feel all of this like anger, right? But then as soon as she gets this plan, we don't know what the plan is yet, but she's planning to somehow turn the situation to her advantage. Then suddenly everything's fine, and she's super interested in Illyria again. Illyria is really suspicious of Briar. She has the crystal. She's made it clear to Briar that the crystal's off the table, right, as payment. But Briar is still trying to help her, so that's very suspicious to Illyria. So they go out for tea. They talk about their problems for like 3 paragraphs, and then everything is fine. But yeah, it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and not in a good way. A very uncomfortable emotional roller coaster. Okay, Captain Briar does in fact launch into one of her piratey tales. It is the most generic pirate tale ever told. Like, I think if you told this to a 6-year-old getting ready for bed, that they would be bored. Alright, here's one. It all started when I decided to take the Defiant south. We set sail for the southern reaches, and I knew right away we were in for a wild ride. The winds whipped our sails, and the crew cheered as we traversed the open sea. We didn't expect to run into any trouble, but that's when we sighted a vessel bearing a strange banner. They called out to us to surrender since their ship was larger than ours. We laughed at their demand and retaliated with a volley of cannon fire. It was a fierce battle. Swords clashed and smoke filled the air as our crews fought valiantly for their ship, but in the end, we emerged victorious. That is the most goddamn... How did you make a pirate story that boring? Let's look at what actually happened here. They set sail. They saw a ship. The ship fought them. Mad Lib's a better story than that. I was trying to figure out how to add this to my annotation scheme, so I just wrote ha 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 all the way down the side of it. I may have just found something worse than the tense change on the first page of the book. Briar's dialogue. I-N-G, I-N-G, I-N-G. Briar's dialogue. I-N-G. Briar's dialogue. I was young, but I was already carving a space for myself to stand out in the sea of nobodies. If you're gonna do the pirate captain dialogue, you have to commit to the bit. When that didn't work and the guys got sent back chopped up worse than clam meat. I swear to God, she has not been talking like this. These are the kind of things that make up a character's voice. And if you're changing it all the time, you lose the voice of the character. The conservatory I'm hoping to turn into a magical cafe attached to the shop with infused brews. I think she should call it infused brews. It's a little redundant. Yeah, but you don't know about that. You say the same thing all the time. You say meow meow, which means give me some kibble. I'm hungry. I just missed it, but he did a big stretch. He's threatening to leave because I was yelling too loud about Jared's because I got mad, and now he's mad. Okay, I haven't been recording all of the developmental problems, but this one is too good to pass up. 1 page ago, Captain Briar stopped drinking her tea because the only thing that was left in it was the dregs, right? That nasty little part at the bottom of the tea. But then on the next page, the conversation's been going well, and she feels the need to toast with the teacups, which is cute, right? Except you've just said that all you have left is the bitter dregs. I don't think there's a cute enough person in the world, guy or girl, that I would drink that for. I say maybe for you, Pin Pin. Oh, we can always worry about that later. No skin off my teeth either way. I have to show you the video proof on this one. What the fuck? This is what happens when you yell about gerunds too loud. You lose those who matter to you most. So now Illyria is back wandering around the marketplace again, and everywhere she goes and she tries to do business, she's foiled by the mob, the Crimson Ledger. I think they're setting up the mob to be the big bad in this book, because I don't know what else it would be. The curse on the mansion isn't anything specific. The curse on the pirate captain is getting more specific. There's like dark veins on her arms, but neither of those have enough presence to be the big bad. The only thing that is mentioned frequently enough to turn out to be the enemy in the book is the Crimson Ledger, not a particular leader of the Crimson Ledger, just the mob in general. And I have serious reservations about that, having a group like that be the villain of a book. It's hard to defeat a group, for one thing. If this was a member, a high-ranking member of the group, maybe it could work. But mobs are kind of flat as a villain. Or maybe I'm still mad about the concept of mobs being Italian-American, but that's beside the point. I mean, I'm gonna see how it pans out. I'm still really caught up on this stupid street that the house is on. I was thinking about it when I posted the video or videos talking about a side street and an alley and a cul-de-sac. What is even a grand, spooky old mansion doing at the end of an alleyway, right? How do you fit a mansion at the end of an alley? Now, in this chapter, they're saying that this is an old mansion on Crescent Circle. For God's sake, what is this road? The cul-de-sac alleyway side street of Crescent Circle, lined with trees and a mansion on the end. I absolutely categorically refuse to put that into AI, but if anyone felt inclined to try to draw that, I would love to see it. I've only found about a dozen M dashes in the 200 plus pages, but every single one of them is used just slightly off. I'm probably gonna start picking up the pace a little bit. It seems like the way that I've come across in these vlogs is that I'm saying that these small things like unusual metaphors, non sequiturs, descriptions that don't make sense, that those are signs of AI. Really, they're just things that I find funny and interesting in this book that I am fairly certain was written by AI. It's not those individual things that make me think the book is AI. I am trying to build up a way to assess AI writing and at least try to discern it from human work using some of the knowledge that I'm gaining from this book. But that doesn't mean that everything I spot in these vlogs I'm claiming is AI. Nevertheless, I think that's the burning question on most people's minds, so we're going to speed up a little bit and try to get to that point. One of my biggest things to watch out for is going to be overly positive tone. For example, our girl Illyria went into the basement of the haunted mansion that she owns. She knows it's cursed, and she had this spooky moment where someone was in there, she called out to them, and it turned out to be these two squatters. They're really friendly and they want to join her, and they instantly blend into her merry band of fellows. There's no tension, there's no threat. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. A little later on, a guy who I do not remember, he's hanging out with Illyria, and they seem to know each other, and it seems like we should know him. I cannot remember for the life of me who this is. And he says, oh, you underestimate your gifts. Your passion shall win hearts just as it won mine. She says, I don't need their hearts, only their bank ledgers. He says back, aha, a woman after my own purse strings. That's good. Skies above, we could use more merchants with that kind of no-nonsense attitude. So she just admitted to being a money-scrounging capitalist who's opening this store to make a profit, which is fine. People need to make a living. She's also saying that, oh, this sanctum is going to be a haven for all to show their magic, and it's going to do all this important work for the city and for the people and bring people together, but also she wants to make money. And no matter which of those two states she's in, everyone says, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, you're miraculous. Oh, that's the most incredible thing ever. To me, so far, it's the biggest tell. Because there is conflict in a sense. There's not sustained conflict. But if there's not characters who are explicitly bad guys, members of the Crimson Ledger, then they have no depth. They have no bad instincts. They have nothing bad to say about Illyria or her enterprise. It is overwhelming, and it is boring as all hell. And it's not even a case of showing versus telling, because they're telling us one thing and showing us something completely on the other side, right? Everyone is saying that this is such a good enterprise because many forces will oppose such openness. We have not seen anyone oppose this. The only people who are opposing her are the Crimson Ledger. They're only mad because she didn't want to do business with them. No one gives a shit that she's bringing all of these different kinds of magic together. No one cares. We have a side quest now out of the middle of nowhere. They were in the market. She almost recruited this dryad to her sanctum, but the dryad randomly says, hey, go to this island and give me this flower. There was no build-up to that. There was no indication they were going to go do this. There was no reason given beyond the dryad wants this, so she's going to get it. It's got nothing to do with the main plot or the main villains, and this is going to take up, I guess, the next few chapters to go get this flower, so hey, let's go get a flower. At least it's a good excuse to partner up with the pirate captain. They're sailing off together. Every adventure this pirate ship has is auto-generated to a max. All of the action is so generic. We're on the boat, right? They're going towards getting the flowers, and a ship appears. Ship ahead, Imperial colors. We don't know. We don't even know what Imperial is. What's the Empire? Who's running it? How is that affecting them? What's it going to mean if they get captured? We have no idea who the Imperials are. The first thing they try works, right? Like, Briar starts sailing away, Illyria conjures a mist for them to hide in, and it works. They lose them. So even when you have an action scene that could present a problem, that could present a danger, it's so easily dealt with, and then it's instantly forgotten about, and it has no impact on the story. What the hell did I just read? They're after this flower, right? They get to the island, they encounter a pack of wraith wolves. And for a minute, it seems like they actually might be in some danger, because Illyria actually says that this is their land, they'll not attack us without reason. It's okay, buddy, there are wolves. No real wolves. Illyria says that the wolves won't attack without a reason, so Briar asks her what kind of reason. Illyria says, well, trespassing, I suppose, taking things from the Vale. Which, mind you, that's what they're here to do. They're here to take one of those flowers. So, oh my god, it's actually kind of scary, right? But then they're finally confronted by these wraith wolves. The alpha stares at them, and what happens is a smaller wraith wolf limps up beside the leader, and Briar says they need our help. So this wraith wolf is injured. It has an injured paw, so Illyria casts a spell to heal it. The puppy's amazing, it feels better. The rest of the pack wanders off, and the wraith wolf that she healed stays behind, and she and Briar adopt it and name it Whisper. So they never were in danger. The wolves don't give a shit that they're here for the flower. They specifically bring them this sick pup, and then once it's healed, they wander off, and they don't give a shit about their puppy anymore? What? That's all. Sorry, that's all. They could have just run across an injured wolf pup that the pack had abandoned and healed it. They could have saved the pup from some danger that killed the rest of the pack. There was no reason to have this weird, no-stakes way of handling it. I just concluded chapter 15 and started chapter 16, and what we ended with Illyria thinking about her day's work in the mansion, having misgivings about opening it, although we don't know what the misgivings are. And then on 16, we joined Briar in the tavern that she started at, in the same headspace, being depressed about her curse, watching her first mate and his husband or boyfriend, his partner, right, being really happy together and being very envious of them. Normally, if you have this moment where, like, everyone's back where they started, there's been some development, right? They were pushed back there because of something going poorly or something breaking up. They had an argument, so they ended up back where they were, right? Because it's right before the final push. If I genuinely thought that's what this is, it would be fine. What it's more underscoring to me is the fact that there's been no development. We've run in circles for 15 chapters, and everyone is back where they started, doing the same things they've been doing the whole time. And it's getting exhausting. A lot of the plot is being predicated on the miscommunication trope, where the pirate captain is just refusing to tell Illyria, whom she's falling in love with, who they shared a kiss by now. She's not telling her that the reason she wanted that crystal was to cure herself of a curse that is probably going to threaten her life pretty soon. Like, she's running out of time. Because Illyria is reciprocating the feelings, right? She'd probably give her the crystal. But Briar's not telling Illyria why she needed the crystal. Okay, we finally get some answers. She tells her first mate, she breaks down and tells her first mate that this curse on her came from a sea witch who cursed one of her ancestors. The ancestor stole the husband of the sea witch, and the witch cursed all women in her line to die of poison in their blood when they fall in love. Which is actually fairly interesting. I like that concept. It's pretty cool. The problem is that she was suffering from this curse and having pain before she met our girl Illyria. Illyria? So the math ain't mathin'. There's not been anyone else in this book that could have been that person. Like, Briar's feelings changed when she met Illyria. She just was suffering from this curse and then fell in love, and now she's dying from it. Her first mate asks her why she hasn't told Illyria, and it says, telling Illyria about the curse was a risk she wasn't willing to take. It would mean revealing the darkest secret of her family and betraying the trust Illyria had in her. How? What? If you're gonna hinge a whole plot point on this, at least have it make sense. We might just be experiencing residual magical phenomena. Residual, more like rambunctious. What? That's not how you use this. Now Briar is looking like she's going to partner with the mob to bring Illyria and her mansion down, rather than just having a conversation. While Boss is in her shop, Vespera leaned in towards Illyria, her floral perfume failing to mask the viper's hiss underneath. Wait, the viper's hiss is her voice, right? She's speaking in this, like, evil hiss voice. Why would her perfume cover that up? I'm sorry, can you talk a little louder? I can't hear you over the smell of cinnamon rolls. And what could all of this plotting possibly be leading up to? What dastardly thing could they be threatening to do? Are they going to rough up the place, give her concrete shoes, throw her in the river, have her sleeping with the fishes? Nope. They're going to report her to the police. Ultimately, it is not for us to judge. I believe that lies with the Luminaran Senate. Don't cross the mob, they'll just turn you right in. You know what the Mafia really loves is stool pigeons. So after a few threats from the Crimson Ledger, the Luminaran Senate itself, mind you, not any kind of law enforcement, the Senate turns up, and they're threatening to close her down. That's what the big conflict is going to be, I guess. And they're collaborating with her old boss to do it. She got in trouble with the mob, and the mob did all this big threatening stuff, right? And in the end, what they're going to do to her is work with her old boss at the university to report her to the government. Oh my god. You the one who wanted to see me? She asked. The man's only answer was a slow nod, and he turned and slunk back into the alleyway. Then come on, I don't have all night. I think this is her speaking again. But what? But if he turns away and slinks down the alley, why on earth does she say, then come on, I don't have all night? You are hereby ordered to cease all activities on these premises immediately, pending a trial before the Luminaran Senate. Oh no, the most dastardly thing the Mafia could have possibly done. In the back of her mind, she'd always wondered if there was some other reason Briar bid on the prism, but she'd never guessed it was something like this. Why not? Girl, what's a good use for a curse breaker for piracy? She's been acting so shifty and getting so ill, and you never thought that there would be a bad curse on her? You're supposed to be smart. What am I supposed to do now? Gee, I don't know. Your girlfriend is dying of a curse. Maybe you want to take that curse-breaking gem that you have and break the curse on your shop so you can open it again. Do you want to attempt to use your noggin? Or do you think it will consume too much water and overheat like your AI father? Briar's hand found hers, their fingers lacing together, and Illyria looked out at the harbor, the Defiant shoulder to shoulder with the other ships in the harbor. That's one heck of a run-on. Briar's hand found hers, their fingers lacing together, and Illyria looked out at the harbor, the Defiant shoulder to shoulder with the other ships in the harbor. That's too many thoughts. Think less. So I just read the spicy scene. Look, TLDR, what's bothering me about it the most is that there was nothing really majorly wrong with it. It progressed logically. There was reciprocation. There was a magic eggplant. The language was a little overblown, I think, but not unusually so. You know, just about as much as human writers, I guess. You can probably tell that spice in books is not my thing. I think that's mostly due to my demisexuality. That's an entirely other thing. If I had read this in a book that I knew was human, I would have thought, okay, a normal romantic spicy scene. And now I'm just kind of flipping out that an AI can write such a normal spicy scene. I am gonna just cross my fingers and hope that this was either hybrid written or that I'm wrong somehow, even with all of these really peculiar errors, that this was in fact human written, because I really can't cope with the idea that an AI wrote a spicy scene that doesn't even have a body. I think I need a shower, not in a, oh, that was hot kind of way, like a hug my knees and cry kind of way. Will AI kill queer smut scenes? In case you're new here, I've been doing a reading vlog of this book, Starlight and Shadows by Vera Winters. It's been pretty decently established, although not confirmed by the author, that this is AI written. And I just posted the episode where I covered the smut scene in the book. I was pretty skeeved out by it, but really because it was so normal. It progressed very much like a normal spicy scene, in my opinion, although I'm the first to say that I am not a big smut reader. No judgment, it's just not for me. And I got a comment pointing out that because AI was trained on things like AO3, it's actually really good at writing spicy scenes, but it tends to be heteronormative. And my knee-jerk reaction was, oh no, this is sapphic. But then I really sat and thought about the smut scene that I read. Yes, there are two women, but the way the narrative of the scene unfolds is surprisingly heteronormative. These are the romantic leads that you can see in this lovely AI-generated cover art. The one is very femme presenting, and then the other one, she's not really butch, but she's slightly more masculine in her style. She's a pirate captain, so she tends to wear things that are maybe not quite as elaborate as the other woman. For this analysis, I will call them the masc and the femme. I apologize for the staggering amount of self-censoring I'm going to have to do to try to get this out there. By the way, if you're under 18, just get the fuck out of here. So it starts with the masc lifting the femme and carrying her into the bedroom. The femme is laughing and blushing, kicks the door closed behind them, and crosses the room in a few strides. They start making out, a little bit of conversation, both laying on the bed, making out again. The masc starts working her way down. There's a couple of paragraphs where she's enjoying the femme's cherries, and then she continues. There's been extensive description of the femme's cherries, but whenever the masc's bust is referred to, it's referred to as a chest. The masc goes down on the femme, and the femme finishes. It's really uncomfortable. After that, the masc gets the femme off a couple more times with her hands. And when it's time for the femme to reciprocate, she summons a golden eggplant and essentially does a reverse cowgirl. They have the mystical pleasure of arriving at the same time. Femme is finished at least 3 times now, and the masc is finished once and is at the end of the encounter. What I didn't see the first time was that you could replace this character with a man, and nothing about that spicy scene would change at all except the pronouns. I could be way off base here because I said I don't read a lot of smut. I do, however, read a lot of LGBT books. It seems to me that LGBT encounters are not just hetero encounters where you swap. Now, this is just one very uncomfortable demisexual woman's opinion. That could be a very normal LGBT spicy scene, or this could also be a known issue that just doesn't happen to be in my algorithm. The comment made me stop and think and go back and ask the question. Humans do not act this way. Elves don't act this way. So, the mob has snitched on you, to the government, and to your old boss. Your shop's closed now, right? How are you going to get out of this? You invite them all over and show them that you're removing the curse. And then everyone's just going to be fine with it. The mob's complaint was never that the place was cursed, right? The curse was a pretense to close the shop because the mob didn't want a shop in town that they didn't control. Right? So the Senate closes the shop on the pretense of it being cursed. So she's going to invite them all over and lift the curse with their help. And they'll all just help her. Illyria's old boss shows up. The whole time has been working against her, right? We don't even know quite what happened, just that Illyria wants to, free up magic for all, and this elf is opposed to it. But she just turns up all of a sudden to Illyria's big shindig and says, I know what's been happening with your shop, and I wanted to offer my assistance. After everything you've said and done to oppose my work, I was wrong. I see that now. You're doing something incredible, Illyria. You're bringing light and hope to the city, and I want to help. I want to be a part of that too. Why? Pourquoi? What? Senate is here. The members of the Senate, the senators, are going to confront this big curse in the mansion. The colleagues from Lyceum, the school she was at before, so her ex-boss and ex-colleagues. And this ragtag group of people, most of whom she hardly knows, she's had a brush encounter with, and then suddenly they're instantly 100% loyal to her. They adore her. They're on board with the mission of whatever the shop is doing for the city. They're all gathered together. They're doing dual rousing the troops speeches, right? Briar leans forward. Thank you all for coming. I know this isn't easy, and I know we're all scared. 2 paragraphs down, it's the first thing Illyria says. Thank you, and thank you all for coming. I know this isn't easy. What you're about to witness will not be easy. It is a dark and malevolent force and will not go quietly. She has no idea what they're up against because we haven't even really seen this curse, but whatever. But then she adds, however, if we are to save Luminara, we must all face it head on. Who's standing Luminara? This house has been sitting in the city, at the end of an alleyway lined with trees, mind you, for decades, and this malevolent presence has been there, and no one cares. The city is not in danger. You can't just say something is at stake, right? You have to, show how it's at stake. One of the senators pops up with a question, right? It's not, how is the city in danger? It's, why do you care so much for this city and its fate? Which she's got a point on that. I mean, she's been here a week. That's not the question to be asking right now. I mean, obviously, Illyria wants to save the city because it's a city full of people who do nothing all day but kiss her ass. Then the mob has turned up. Her enemies. Finally, on page 284 of 318, you see it's a dark-wraithed woman. We could have said that at any time. This wraith could have shown up at any time, but it's only when they go to cast the curse out of this house that is somehow threatening the whole city that we even know what it is. The dog ate it. There was a little bit of build-up, right, where everyone was like getting into position, but then the solution was that the dog ate the wraith. My dog ate my villain. I guess I'm glad in some way that the dog has a point, because it really seemed like the most needless, superfluous thing that this dog just showed up. There had to be something better. Everything else about it was super easy, right? Like, everyone's spells went off without a hitch. No one is seriously injured, so the only element of danger in this climax is that the dog is a little bit sick now. So it was a surprise to Illyria, and it does make me think that if she didn't know that the dog could eat the wraith, what did she think was going to happen? She gathered all her friends. The spells brought it out, right? But no one had a plan to deal with the wraith. She just got really lucky that it just so happened that this wraith wolf that just so happened to find her could eat it. So the dog ate the wraith. The dog's going to feel better, and now it's time to clean up and live happily ever after, right? First thing that happens afterward, the Senate apologizes to her. Of course. You have removed the last vestiges of this cult and revealed the darkness that lingered within the city. It is obvious now that the Starlight Sanctum has brought together many like-minded magic practitioners of all sorts to do good for the city and not harm. They didn't do shit. They called the wraith out, and then the dog ate it. You've called together a bunch of people to stand around and watch a dog eat its own vomit. The Senate only did this at the request of the mob. But of course, now the mob has also turned on a dime. We realized it's a good thing. Luminara could use more competition, especially in the magic field. Oh yeah, the mob is just fine with competition. It loves capitalism more than a mob boss. This scene is a fucking train wreck. This is Captain Briar, right, talking to these two mob people, Rain, Turnipface, and another guy, who I think just showed up. I think he's a new character on page 300. Just try to follow along with Briar's state of mind here. We were thinking perhaps it's time we reconsidered our position on Illyria. The Sanctum, that's Illyria's shop, could use a strong ally in the market, and from what we hear, she's quite taken with you. First of all, why would they want her to have a strong ally when they were literally opposed to her 10 pages ago? Briar's heart hammered in her chest. What's that supposed to mean? It means we see potential for cooperation between our two groups, if you're willing to set aside your pride and come to the table with us. And why should I believe you, Briar asks. Argo stepped forward. We're not asking for your trust, we're asking for a chance. We think you and Illyria Moondrop could do a lot of good. Briar studied Rain, her lips pressed in a thin line. You know, for a moment there, I almost believed you, but then I remembered who you are. So you think, right, for a second, that this is not going to go their way, that Briar's going to wake up and go, hey, this is the Mafia, I don't want to hang out with them. You would think Mafia's not going to care, right? That Mafia's a very take it or leave it kind of group. You're nothing but a snake in the grass, she continued. And you know what? I'm flattered you think I'm stupid enough to fall for this. But if you think I'm just going to take your word for it, that you'd suddenly have a change of heart, you've got another thing coming. Fair, right? Well, Mafia really doesn't change. They don't do a lot of character development. For some reason, they can't stand that this is the answer. Captain, please, I understand this is difficult to believe given our history, but the truth is we're offering you a chance to work with us, to shape the future of Luminara and beyond. Briar's laugh was harsh and mocking. The only thing you two have ever shaped is a noose, and I'm not going to be your next victim. Rain's smile vanished, replaced with a cold glint of fury. You're making a mistake, Captain. That's the right response from the mob. That's the right response from a group like the Crimson Ledger, who's been the villain of the book. Not this begging, not this pleading. Oh, please, please believe us. We've really changed and we really love you now. So where do you think she's going to leave it? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. But one thing's for sure. She gave them both a sly smile. I'll give it some thought. What? The conversation went. You guys are criminals who would shape a noose, right? This is a ridiculous proposition. I would be stupid to fall for it. But one thing's for sure. I will think about it. Okay, home stretch. This really is the last story vlog, and then we're going to talk about how to identify AI books, okay? Because I can't take it anymore. Illyria's back in front of the Senate. Her ex-boss came up to her beforehand and made up, which was so surprising. Oh my gosh, she didn't see that coming. Except they literally said, like 2 chapters ago, that this had already happened. So I don't know what the point of that scene was. He's giving a speech before the Senate. Mind you, the whole Senate had just watched her get rid of that curse, right? They witnessed the actions that she took. They were there. But now they're asking her, what strides have you made to be a beacon of knowledge and understanding for the people of Luminara and for all of the Heart Realms? Illyria took a deep breath. She had prepared a lengthy speech for this occasion, but it all felt fruitless, pointless, and self-important. Well, then it's on track with the rest of this book. She said merely, we have brought together people of all backgrounds and creeds within our walls. True, fair, okay, point Illyria. And have shared knowledge and magic from across the Heart Realms. No, Not that we saw. You sold some shit. You know, good for you. We have healed the sick and mended the broken and provided a sanctuary for those in need. You absolutely have not. None of those things ever happened. Everyone was always saying that you did. You never did that on page. I'm on page 307 of 318, and I have introduced a new character who has no points. Professor Moondrop, a voice called out. Illyria turned to see one of the sanctum's regular patrons, a young half-elf woman named Ellis, hurrying toward her. Congratulations on the reopening. Oh, I'm so glad you can make it. Is there anything I can help you find? I need a tincture for some headaches. Of course, we have a number of tonics and tinctures that might help. Thank you, Professor. I really appreciate it. Pointless. Does nothing. Who the hell is Ellis? We've never seen her before. You're telling us that this is one of the sanctum's regular customers, and we've never seen her before. 10 pages before the book ends. What? Okay, something in the shop misfires and opens a portal, and fog starts pouring through, and Illyria runs over and does her special light-weaving magic to close the portal. The crowd let out a sigh of relief, and Illyria's heart swelled as she turned to see the expressions of gratitude and awe on their faces. They're grateful for her closing the portal that she opened. Her magic that she probably should not be selling to these people if they're going to use it like this. Her magic caused that problem, and they revere her for fixing the problem that she caused. The puppy grew up in like 3 days. It's a full wolf now. Okay. It's a wraith wolf. I guess I can't get too mad about that. If I have to read one more person tell Illyria, you've done something wonderful here, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to chuck this book off of the patio and just hope that the spring melt washes it away. And we made it. There is an end. There might be a God. I would ask that she not read this book. So how can we use what we've learned from Starlight and Shadows to identify AI writing? It's not perfect grammar. It's not M-dashes or Oxford commas. It's nothing that simple. And if you don't want to think about what you're reading, I don't think you ever will be able to identify AI writing. I'm going to also repeat my disclaimer that we don't know for an absolute fact that AI was used to write this. The author has not confirmed that she did indeed use it. She just has had lots of accusations leveled at her, not responded to them. She has used AI cover art, and got a lot of books in a very short period of time, and the writing has a lot of weird things and mistakes that, to me, indicate that most likely it is AI. You go back and look at my video on the cover of this. I pointed out a lot of different things that seemed wrong with this cover art, right? Individually, a human artist could have made those mistakes. They could have shown sky below the horizon line. They could have had the yoke of a top come past the corset. They could have weird patterns that don't resolve. They could have had jewels that aren't faceted correctly. But the fact that there were so many of those very, very unusual mistakes make me think that the cover is AI art. In a similar way, a human could have made any of these errors. There's nothing in here that's a uniquely AI mistake, right? But the fact that there are so many errors and so many weird things happening that are very unlikely for a human to do make me think that this book is AI. If you want something as fast as as M-dashes would be, right? Like if you're in the bookstore and you want a quick identifier, what I would do is read the first chapter of a book and ask yourself, what bad things happened? What problems were introduced, and were they solved, or do they persist? Almost every human writer knows that the first chapter is your time to introduce your reader to the world, to the characters, and to the problems that are facing, and it's problems that draw a person in. In this book, Illyria had come to the city to find a house. She wanted a lantern that she couldn't afford, and the lantern stall was being threatened by a rogue ball from an acrobat. By the end of the first chapter, all 3 of those problems were solved. She had found a place, she saved the lantern stall from the acrobat's ball, and the stall owner had offered her a lantern in thanks. Strangely enough, one of the most problem-ridden chapters was the first chapter, and I find that incredibly unlikely. As a human writer who has listened to a lot of other human writers, the first chapter is one that tends to get rewritten the most. For one thing, you tend to write it first, right? And each time you make an editing pass, that's the first thing that you edit, so it's your eyes are laser focused. For there to be a tense change on the first page, for there to be those story problems, those tone problems, those weird sentences with smelling sponge sugar and the structures that are an intricate lacework of pale stone, the side street cul-de-sac barely more than an alley with mansion on one end lined with trees. The odds of that from a human seem incredibly low to me. So in the first part of my analysis, I talked about how my number one way to quickly look for an AI book, like in a bookstore, would be to read the first chapter and see if there are any problems that persist from it. That reflects, I think, the biggest sign overall for me is the tone of the book. Now, we know that self-inserts exist, right? There are books that have Mary Sue's and Gary Stu's. They are the heroes of the world. This still felt very different. When I think of a self-insert character, I think of Wesley Crusher from Star Trek Next Gen. And if you watch the first season where he's very prominent, it's not that they don't have problems. It's that they have problems that only Wesley can solve. And if they have a problem that no one can solve, then Wesley's character changes to be able to solve the problem. Starlight and Shadows didn't have persistent problems. They still all worshipped the ground that little Illyria walked on. Everyone told her consistently how amazing she was and how her work was going to change everything, but you never actually saw her do anything impressive. And that to me is the difference between overly positive AI writing and a human self-insert character. The sheer amount of ass-kissing and worship that happened on every page of this book made me want to vomit. Behold the prowess of Illyria Moondrop, an esteemed mage of the Sapphire Isles. It would be an honor to guide you through the halls, Lady Illyria. Your knowledge may help us understand their meaning better. You underestimate your gifts, Illyria. Your passion shall win hearts justice at one line. You've put your heart and soul into this, Illyria. The Starlight Sanctum is going to be a smashing success. It's beautiful, my dear. You truly outdone yourself. Skies above, we could use more merchants with that kind of no-nonsense attitude. Which these beneath with the same success, and you'll do just fine. Whatever it is, we're with you, Illyria. This place is more than a shop. It's a sanctuary, full of knowledge. I see that now. You're doing some incredible, Illyria. You're bringing my to the city, and I want to be part of it too. See, Illyria, I don't know if you're going to let me help. Your son's the only thing that saves us. It's all magic stuff. You know, the other cause of us, people who I'll never get off the magic. I'm sorry, I see no way. Long and the short of it is that an Illyria chapter did not go by without someone telling her how amazing her and her shop are. Very reminiscent of the way that an AI talks to you, right? It's built to serve. So much so that people will have friendships with it and try to marry it. Like, it's supposed to be the most agreeable thing ever. And the most agreeable thing ever cannot write human problems to go in a book. It's also a very short attention span. Chapters are very self-contained, and characters or plot lines tend to not exist unless they are explicitly in the chapter. This also led to some big developmental problems where one chapter would end on a cliffhanger, right? And then it would cut over to the other POV. When you came back to that cliffhanger POV, whatever problem was gone, right? It had been solved. It was just gone away. These are the two most egregious examples of it. One, this is right after Illyria finds the blueprints in the archives, right? And she's thinking about how she's going to acquire this house, how she needs money and investors, and she needs the approval of the Senate, right? She is specifically worried about how to get the Luminaran Senate on board. And the next time we are back in her point of view, she has an investor who is quite eager. All the Crimson Ledger does is run right to the Senate and get them to try to stop it. So given that, we really should have seen all of these interactions on page. We should have seen them being resistant and suspicious of her, or super welcoming, and then it would have been super weird that they just turned on her in favor of the mob, right? This is all the backstory we get to that main conflict. The other example is later on. We're in the thick of it. Briar is dying of her curse, and she has decided that she can't talk to Illyria about it. She has to go back to the mob. So there's this cliffhanger where she is getting past this guard, and then blah, 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 opens the door. Woo, it's Rain Turnip-Face Rivers. He's back, right? She goes to see him, and the chapter ends. Next time we're in Briar's point of view, she's headed back to the Starlight Sanctum, which is fine, right? We want to build up a little dramatic tension. The next place where this becomes relevant is the Briar chapter after that, when she's been fully taken back in under the wing of the bad guys with no discussion about what that cost her or how she got them to trust her again or what the plan is. She just showed up. So again, like Rain Turnipface is there, but how are they on good terms with each other again? What happened? We don't know. Last note, this book had a big tendency to introduce characters really briefly and then bring them up later. And they would just pop in and out. It had a ton of named characters. You could not keep track of them all. Some of them, I think, were named for no reason. They showed up in one part, were never seen again. Some of them were mentioned in passing and then would just pop up and we were supposed to know them again. I think you saw me be put off by that a couple times. It's chaotic. Human writers don't tend to do that as much. It's not a uniquely AI thing, but to me, it is a sign. And with that, I'm done. I'm free. I regret everything. If this is the future of books, I choose illiteracy.